Hello, Dia Yiv. My name is Lisa, and I'm here today with Antoinette. And today we're here to talk about some of the pitfalls that occur along the spiritual path. And we're putting together a short series of chats, of just exchange, sharing our experiences and sharing some of the challenges that we've encountered along our own spiritual journeys and reflecting upon what's happening out there in the spiritual world today, the ups and downs, the positives, and some of the challenges that are still very much present that we've experienced ourselves, and also challenges that are becoming more and more prominent. And the main reason why this series has come into being is simply to respond, to offer our insight and to share our experiences, with the hope that for those of you listening who are starting out in your spiritual journey, or maybe you have been on this path for some time, that you might have some tools or some tips that you can take away that can help you to either overcome similar challenges that you're facing or avoid them completely. So, Antoinette, today we're going to talk about discernment. Discernment is a really big one on the spiritual path. And we were chatting a little bit before we pressed record, and value systems came up as one of the foundations to discerning on this path. Would you like to explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So for me, integrity has been a big thing in my life. Like when I was in high school, that was one of our core values that they instilled in us. And to have integrity is to have values. So what are you actually valuing in your life? Is it truth? Is it justice? Is it helping others? Or is it, self-fulfillment or personal development? Along that will inform what kind of integrity, like what type of integrity or how it will play out in your life. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that when you're really clear on your value system, when you're really clear on what integrity means for you and what all of your different values stand for, it's much easier to discern and to identify, the black and white and where the boundaries are around that. But I think for people who are on a spiritual journey, most of us begin because we need to heal. Yeah. Because we feel lost, and because we feel like we need to find ourselves again and rediscover our purpose, rediscover who we are. And that makes it really difficult to discern. Because our value systems are lost a little bit, or it becomes a really gray zone where we're on a journey of exploration, and it can become quite easy to get lost within that gray area.
Yeah. It's because we grow up in, our own family system, our own culture, and they instill their values. So in terms of, say, religion, then it's like usually it's to be a good person, and a lot of religions would be about service to others. And that can be sort of a little bit of a two-edged sword, because if you're valuing and you're valuing others and you're giving towards others, and yet you forget, to like they say, fill your own cup, look after yourself, and you keep on giving, then you deplete yourself. So it's the value for me, there always has to be a balance between the self and the other, and to live in this case, with integrity around this value, with service to other, love for other, and the love for the self, you have to, it's in the moment, and there's no right and wrong. So some days, sometimes you can give because like you have the energy, you have the time, and you can give to others. And other days you're just so, overworked, like we all work hard and we don't have the energy and the time. And then like when I was growing up in the church, Like if you don't give, then they think, you're a bad Christian kind of thing. Not anything against Christians, but a lot of religions, right? So there's always two sides to the coin. That's my experience from growing up from a religious, background. It's not a clear cut. So integrity would be then, to be authentic to myself and to be authentic to the other person. What is the most loving thing I can do right now if I've only got like a half a cup and not a full cup, right? And I'm running really low really quickly. It's like, what's the most loving thing can I do right now? It's like, no, actually pull back and look after myself first. Because if I'm giving from an empty cup, eventually that kind of pattern builds resentment, and when you giving with resentment, people feel it, eventually it spills out.
Absolutely. And it's an interesting one because, pulling back, I think for many of us who are conditioned to serve and conditioned to, obey, even if it's obeying our roles or obeying, the commitment that we've made to certain tasks, whether it's helping people or serving others, whatever it may be, it's seen as a form of weakness or a form of defeat to step back. When your cup, as you say, is half empty, or you're just not feeling well, or you're just not able to give 100%. But that's where integrity comes in, because actually that's the integrity part. That's the part where you say, actually, I'm not able to give you 100% today. I'm actually going to take a step back because I respect the work that I do. I respect my own energy. I respect you. I respect your journey, and we'll do it another day. For me, that's strength. That takes character. That takes courage. It's definitely not a weakness, but it's often thought of as such because of all of this conditioning that we've had.
Yeah, definitely. And also, like when we're giving from an empty cup, and it's, what are we showing? We're showing a martyrdom, like what do you want to call it, a archetype, right?
Yeah.
And we've had so many martyrs through the centuries. I don't know if for me, this isn't the way forward. That isn't balance. For me, to live a spiritual life, to walk the path, is to have that balance, and to be completely giving and be a martyr and totally deplete ourselves. Like a lot of moms do it. And that was the way before. The roles were, women look after children, they nurture and care, and then the man traditionally would have gone out and worked. That is now blurring with the evolution of consciousness and the spiritual awakening. We're coming into a place where that like feminine, masculine, it isn't about the sexes, it's about the energy. It's like the yin and the yang. It's especially if you look at the yin and the yang symbol, in the Eastern philosophy and spirituality, that yin and the yang is helping each other, and it's flowing together in like intertwined, and it's balanced. And there's some dark in the white and some white in the dark. So yes, it's not like if you look at it and you say, no, it's not pure white, no, it's not pure dark, right? But we are human. This is the human experience. We, like, if we just had to have all light, then we wouldn't be on this earth plane. We'd be in the higher realms, or spiritual planes, or the lower realms in spirit form, right?
Absolutely. And even on a scientific level, like, I believe that it's dark matter, and maybe some people correct me if I'm wrong. It's the dark matter that holds everything together, so there is a place for darkness. It's not always this bad, destructive thing that it's put out there to be, but it's also the rest, right? It's the light. For me, is that constant growth, that constant expansion, the energy that's expanding outwards and being put outwards. And that can be exhausting if it's done in excess. And whereas the dark for me is the rest. It's the time where we come inwards. It's the time where we, it's the dream time. It's the time where you come into, yourself and connect with your higher self, connect to your own consciousness, be one with your mind, with your ideas, with how you're feeling, your emotions, and checking in with yourself. For me, that's all the kind of dark. I'd say even the mothering aspect. There's a lot of darkness in the mothering, nurturing aspect, because that's how it is in the natural world. That's, even if you look at the plants, they're nurtured by the soil. Mm. And it's all dark under there,
Mm.
So it's like the most of our nurturing actually comes from those periods of rest or from the dark moments. And there is a push in the spiritual world towards that love and light. And, it's, I don't know if love should be put into the light. I don't think that those two should always have to be in tandem with each other, because I think that love can occur within the spiritual path independent of whether it's light or dark. It's something separate, but the light in excess can cause burnout as well. It can lead to exhaustion. It can lead to also suppression of our emotions that need to be healed, but also suppression sometimes of our instinct. The constant strive for positive thinking, and there's a beauty to that, of always seeing the light in everything, always seeing the positive in everything. But I think sometimes on the spiritual path, and it can be hard then if you're in an environment where it doesn't really resonate with you, and you don't feel quite at home, or you don't feel like this is the right place to be. And if you voice that, then you're seen as being negative. If you're tired, or if you're worn out, or if you're going through a process, or you're not in your best emotional state, or even mental state at that time, it can be seen as toxic or negative, or, not off the light. And I think that can be a harmful aspect too. And it's important to discern, I think, between being positive and, looking for the opportunities, and, staying aligned on our spiritual path, and having to suppress your own authenticity because of this. I'm going to call it love and light propaganda, because that's what it feels like to me sometimes.
They in counseling, they usually refer to toxic positivity. Being almost, it's almost like talking about the fake smile. Show up at work, you have to put the fake smile and be the best on your best form. If you're in customer service, especially. And if someone's not suited to that, if that's not their innate disposition, they'll soon burn out, and they won't last in that job, because they're denying a part of themselves, right? So and for them, at some point, if it's not working for them, they'd usually get really sick. They'd burn out, maybe even develop a physical illness even. At some point you have to come and leave that environment, right? If the environment doesn't agree with you, you're not going to thrive. No. So you have to stop at some point, and that's when you go into the dark, and that's being honest with itself, and in turn, expressing this to, if it's your boss that you want to quit or whatever, and then being true to yourself. That's integrity, and having that discernment to figure it out. It's is this right for me? Do I really need this job? Am I better off doing something else? Say, if you're customer service, say working in a shop, say, no, I'm actually suited to be a gardener, actually digging in the ground, that kind of thing,
Absolutely. And then having the courage, I think, to follow through on that. But it is in those moments of darkness that we learn the skills and the tools, I think, to master ourselves. But mastery sounds like such a big thing, but even just learning how to be present in the moment, or learning how to just sit with the emotion, sit with the energy that we're feeling, sit with even the confusion, just to be present and learn how our body works. Because when we're out there, when we're spending so much time in the external world, in an environment, even if it doesn't serve our purpose, or it's toxic to our well-being, we're not developing the skills we need. When we think positively all the time, when we focus just on the light, we're not actually learning the skills that we need to handle those drops. Because life by nature, we ebb and flow. Like, even if you take yourself out of that toxic job and put yourself into the job of the gardener, you can still encounter pitfalls in life. You can still encounter traumas. You can encounter grief. Somebody close to you could die. There's still going to be things that can happen to you throughout your life where you actually need those skills to be able to center yourself and actually be comfortable sitting in the discomfort.
Yeah. Another way to phrase that, like in the spiritual world, they call it spiritual bypassing. But even in normal life, it's just bypassing your emotions, bypassing what's really happening within yourself. The thing is, when you suppress and you bypass, you're just going to have the same problems tomorrow and the next day. At some point, these issues are going to erupt because you haven't dealt with them, right?
And it doesn't even make sense, really, when you think about it, like positive thinking, because the thinking occurs in our cognitive brain, but the trauma and the wounds occur in our reptilian brain, or, in our mammalian brain. It doesn't even happen in the cognitive aspects. So trying to overcome, emotions or trauma through thoughts just doesn't work.
Yeah.
You can't think your way out of a trauma.
No, that's the issue. The mind, or the ego, if you want to call it that, loves a problem, loves a question, loves to find a solution. And that's the mind part. The ego wants to control, wants to keep you in that safe place that it knows that you've been in. This is traditionally how our family did it. This is like what your brother did, your sister did, your mother did. We've all been in the shop. You can't leave this job. It'll keep you there. But it's the spirit, the creative, the aspect of us, the soul that wants to, grow. The soul is about growth. It's always striving and it won't stop. And it's up to us to get into alignment as a complete human. Yeah. Mind, body, spirit, heart, come into alignment and bring this all together.
Yeah.
They say that the mind isn't a good master, that it will basically drive you crazy. But when it's aligned with the heart, it makes a beautiful servant to the heart,
Yeah, that is lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the mind is a newbie, But so it comes back to the end of the day, being true to ourselves, right? So the heart is probably one of the most authentic parts of our being, which is aligned on a spiritual level. It's aligned on an emotional level. It's aligned on a physical level. And so where does discernment come into that? For those who are starting off on their spiritual path, or for those who find themselves on the journey or on the learning path, what advice would you give them in terms of discernment? Let's say they walk into a room full of, spiritual people, beautiful community, and then they encounter a deep process or a deep emotional process, and it's not being received well, or they're being pushed, because that's another thing. Sometimes, you're pushed to release it, which can be it can be like re-traumatizing, because you're experiencing that process and then you're being pushed to release it, to get it out, to experience it when you're not fully ready on a physical level. It's like, what tips would you give them?
Well, in counseling, the way I was taught is really to, as a practitioner, as a facilitator, really to follow the client's lead. So like as a counselor, as a facilitator, as a practitioner, as a coach, even as a teacher, decent human being, basically, listen, to what's going on for your client or for whoever's experiencing this issue. Really listen and really tune in. So this is where your empathy skills come in, to feel like what's happening for the person. And on the client side, it's like, we're not going to get it on the first time. So don't be hard on yourself. So even if you've done things that you didn't want to do in hindsight, take it as a learning, Yeah. So you're not going to we're not perfect. We're still figuring it out here as humans. And discernment it can take years, it can take generations. Some people never get it. But to be kind to yourself, and if it feels off, then
it's off.
Let's go with that. Go with your instinct, and to listen to fine-tune that instinct. What you have to do, like, you don't have to, but like, it's advisable. Become quiet within oneself to really listen to what's happening within your body, within your mind, within your feelings. So to do that, like meditative practices, right, are really good. Or some meditative practice, you can do silent meditation, close your eyes, that kind of thing. Or it can be like yoga movements kind of thing, a yoga practice, or walking even. You don't have to close your eyes, but even to sit in nature, to become silent and to listen to listen to what's happening within yourself, and not to judge what's going on, to watch the thoughts, let them pass, to feel the feelings and let it go. And at first it's going to be really hard, and you're going to like beat yourself up. This is what I used to do. Like, just come down on myself so heavy for years, and like, why am I not getting it right? Like, why am I not getting it?
Patience as well.
Yeah.
Because it's a long journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some of us have come back multiple times to figure it out, right?
Yes, in this lifetime and in others.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes time. I think that's key. It's to be patient, to trust your body, to trust the responses that you're feeling within your body. Like, if it doesn't feel right, if you don't feel safe, then that's trumps anything else. You have to feel like you're in the right place to be able to process, and at the pace that you're able to naturally go at, because it's not a race. And that's one thing that I've learned on this path. Like, trying to overcome things too quickly just brought me back into a loop.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel great for a short space of time, and then you just regress again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the most valuable lesson in terms of that was to slow down,
mm-hmm.
and to take my time healing, to take my time working through things, and taking it step by step, and not putting pressure on to do everything at once. And I felt under pressure when I came into, let's say, the spiritual world. And, it's a lot when you're not used to any of that, or when you've meditated a little bit, or you have some sort of small kind of energetic practices. But like, when you go into communities, or when you go into courses, or you kind of get bombarded with information and with how you should be.
Yeah.
So you should be doing all these practices, and then you should also be eating healthy, and then you should also be living your true life. And so, you should be completely crumbling down every aspect of your life and everything that you've formed so far in your life, to bring it into alignment with this, perfect way of living, clean living, being trauma-free, having the job that you love, like all these different things that you're kind of bombarded with. And I felt really overwhelmed at the very beginning, and trying to do all those things at once. They're all valid. We shouldn't work in a toxic environment, because we spend so much of our time there. So it's not, it's not conducive to our health. We should eat healthily, or eat the foods that resonate with our body, that feel good when we consume them. Like, we should have daily practices that help us to stay aligned. But when you are starting off and you're going through processes, it's like, really peel all of that back.
Yeah.
I've learned to take it like step by step. And if I'm going through a process, I'll do one thing.
Yeah.
If it's the being present, then it's the being present. I'm not going to try and give myself the headache of also trying to eat well, or also trying to, work at whatever I'm supposed to be doing. It's like one thing at a time, slow.
Yeah.
And really, as you say, listen to yourself, listen to your body, and it will tell you what it needs. It'll tell you where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And creating the space, I think, as well.
Yeah. It's the same thing when you have food allergies. Like, you can't just quit everything all at once. Like, it's a process. Like, you can start off, cutting one type of product. So if it's just, I don't know, wheat only, and then figuring out, okay, is it wheat, or is it like a certain type of bread, or is it another type of grain? Maybe it's rice. So, like, it's you're only going to get a proper informed, I call it discernment, really. You're only going to get a real discernment when you take the time to really sit with it and process it and figure it out. Listen to what's going on within yourself and your responses. So everybody's reaction is going to be different. So one circle of spiritual people or one type of food is going to be fine by somebody else, but for the next person, it's not. It's because we all have different issues in our lives. We all have different traumas, all come from different environments. We're all made up differently. Yes, we have common things in common, but we don't respond the same.
Yeah.
And if we've done things in the past that's hurt us, take it as a lesson. Often years later, you'll find, oh, that's why I was in that stupid job. That's where I got that. I learned how to deal with customers. Now I know how to deal with people that are this way. It's all lessons. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's all lessons. Okay, so I think we will leave it there for today. Thank you, Antoinette. And we'll see you next time.
Pleasure. Thank you.